done better last time. We really wanted to be here for the first town hall. It's not super accessible on public transportation. I understand that, so I want to own that. But it was important for me because our brothers and sisters in labor are so important in this moment to one, say thank you for letting us use this space in Eden. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but also to open up this space to community in our first conversation about what's at stake. So I'm already talking too much. This is Eden Chan, he's our district director. Thanks everybody for coming. Let's get started.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are so thrilled to be here tonight in San Leandro. My name is Eden Chan. I am the district director for our Congresswoman Lateefah Simon, and I am so honored and excited to be here. I am on day 7, so thank you all for your grace. Thank you so much. But I am, Bay Area native, really rooted here in the Bay, in the East Bay, and I'm working on building out our beautiful office. Our Congresswoman feels very strongly about having a very strong presence here in our district. And so I want to shout out a few of our team members who are here as well. We've got Helser, we've got Ellie, we've got Sally in the back, who is actually based out of DC, but flew in to be a part of this really important town hall. And so we're really committed to, where's Keisha? Oh, there she is, and Keisha! There's Keisha, yay! So I just want to just reiterate how committed and how excited we are to be here in the district, and we want to have a very strong presence. We want to be out there, we want to get to know you, and we want to be here to serve. Our staff are here to be field reps as well as caseworkers because we're here to serve you. So please, everybody look out. Please do fill out a half sheet if you can. It's to submit questions, but it's also so we can get your information because we want to keep you updated when we're able to invite you all to an open house. So with that, I also want to extend a special thank you to our host, IBEW Local Union 595 and the Alameda County Electrical JATC for partnering with us and hosting us tonight. I will be our moderator. I will be our moderator for tonight's program, so my job is to try to keep us on time. So forgive me, forgive me if I cut anybody off, but we got to get out of here at a certain time. Tonight we'll be able to hear from our Congresswoman, as well as some really dear elected leaders and friends. And so after these presentations, I'll facilitate the Q&A. Again, we're handing out some half sheets where you can submit questions. Helser and Ellie and Keisha will be just sort of circulating around the room throughout the night. So please do fill one out because we'd love to hear from you. And then we're going to work on consolidating those questions so that we can get to as many as possible. But we do also want to hear from you. So we do plan to open it up to a live Q&A later in the night as well. So we can prepare for that. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic back over to our Congresswoman to introduce our very special guests. We definitely want to hear some very special welcomes from our elected leaders in the room.
Great. You know, I'm used to actually like sitting in circles, so being up on the stage is so strange. I have a great staff with a big old binder of 56 pages of notes. I'm like probably not going to use them, but I apologize. Our mayor is here. And so I want to welcome our mayor to the stage. It's super important that we all walk together in governing, that we're actually governing together. And I'll talk a little bit about more sort of my vision of how we're going to be working together. But even, before I got elected, we were, taking me throughout the town so I can really understand what's at stake here, the federal partnerships that existed. But once again, an opportunity to just welcome this room. And
so thank you for being here today. One of the things that I marveled at first from Juan Gonzalez, Mayor of the City of San Leandro, a city where kindness matters and innovation flourishes. And so when I think about the kindness you showed before being elected, we literally drove around the city of San Leandro and spoke about the challenges that we're facing and the successes that we've had. And so I just want to say thank you I want to welcome you again to our city. And what I was really excited about when we went and met with Congresswoman Simon, who we met in DC last month, she said, I am ready to get back to San Leandro and to talk about projects now that I'm officially in the chair. So on behalf of the city of San Leandro, welcome back.
It's work. Thank you. Mayor, thank you so much. And so much of what I see, particularly in this time where there is a real trifecta, and we're going to get to that. My job and my opportunity is to work with, our elected brass here in the region, in my district, and actually beyond, to develop our right now. Our strategy just can't be about hoping that things are going to get better. The elected body of the 7 cities that I govern, we have to really work together, not just in spirit, but in strategy, to develop a 24-month grant program. What are we applying for together? We don't have to be in a state where we're competing against one another. We need to be very, very clear. So we're going to be hosting a number, not only roundtables and one-on-ones with our electeds. Now I want to introduce one of the baddest women that I know, Ms. Ortega. And you all know there's something wrong with Ms. Ortega. I look at no one to stay on your good side. As one of the nation's most profound labor leaders, as a mama, as someone who suffers no fools, I am really looking forward to working with you. I mean, you're legislating in a time where, thank God, we have you representing the district. Thank you for your clarity on why we need good prevailing wage jobs. You have never, ever, I've been watching you for years, taking your values and not center them in your activism, your organizing, and in your legislative work. So one of the things that I just can't wait to do more of is work with you, particularly on the issues around housing, our federal applications around sea level rise, our peer here. There's so much for us to do. I know I have a colleague in you, and you definitely have a colleague in me. So thank you. I want to say a few words.
Thank you. Wow, thank you. And look at that bling she's wearing. I want one of those with San Leandro on it. Good evening, everyone. Assemblymember Ms. Ortega, and I work for you guys. It is an honor to have this Congresswoman here in the city of San Leandro, the city of kindness, but also the city of innovation and the city of passion. I walked in, I saw your signs. I was like, yes, I'm home. I've spent all week in Sacramento. I actually just left a meeting. I was running late, had a meeting with our governor. We just became the 4th largest economy in the world. So with that comes responsibility, especially at a time when we're under attack. Our communities are under attack, our healthcare, our social security, our infrastructure, our American citizens are being picked up and sent to encampments. This is not a time for us to sit back and watch. History is happening right now, today, and it matters who we have in Washington, D.C., it matters who we have in Sacramento, and it matters who we have here at the local level, all of us working together to make the California that we all know and love in this great nation. And that's why I, drove down here as fast as I could, because I didn't want to miss the moment where our newly elected Congresswoman comes to San Leandro to hear from you all, because now is your time to speak, to let us know what you want to see. Because as I said, I work for you, we work for you, and we want to deliver in our promises that we made when we were sent to DC and for me to Sacramento. So it is an honor to be here today and a privilege to welcome this wonderful Congresswoman who's going to recruit. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Assemblywoman, thank you. Mayor, thank you. One of the things I want to make sure as we get into the question and answer components, that you all are here to answer some questions if they do come up. We are working in a constellation to govern. We govern perfectly, but we govern hopefully the best that we can. But thank you for being here and staying for as long as you can. I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you. Also, I didn't say the fashion on stage is really fabulous. So next up, we want to give a shout out again to our lovely hosts. And we actually want to start the program with a brief conversation with Greg Pagano, who is the business manager and financial secretary for IBEW Local Union 595. Come on up, Greg.
So we're gonna get into the questions and answers. I know that's why you all are here. First, I really did want to take some time to talk to you, Greg. Today, I was at the port. First of all, I was raised in the Bay Area. I've never been to the port, like around the port, but on the port, in the port. Those Jurassic Park crane things, those are actually
Star Wars.
they're manned by real people. There are thousands of folks across sort of our union diaspora, our labor diaspora, that keep the port, not just for Oakland and the region, but really for the Western Hemisphere alive. And so I got an opportunity to talk to a number of the folks from the private sector, some folks, literally some union workers, the Chamber of Commerce folks, and it just became so clear that the chaos coming out, of the Trump administration in terms of these trade wars, everyone is affected, from the small business owner in Chinatown who is trying to figure out should they buy some of the cultural products in bulk right now, to the respirators that we're getting for transplant patients at Children's Hospital that are coming from Britain. Everyone is affected. I wanted to thank you for giving us this space. It's such a beautiful space. I mean, it better be. It's the Craftsman art. It is cold though. I just want to have a serious conversation. And part of this is this opportunity. We're all educating each other on, outside of the politics with a big P. What are we really facing on the ground in terms of this moment? And it's a labor emergency. It's a worker emergency. It's a sector emergency. So can you just give us a little bit of kind of what you're seeing, and also would love a call to action from you directly?
Of course. Well, thank you for being here. Always a pleasure to see you. One of the big things we're seeing with the tariffs coming in, like you mentioned, is affecting members' pensions, right? The up and down in the stock market really affects members' pensions, affects members going to retire. Whether the market comes back the next day, you never earn back what you lost the day before, right? That's a rebound 10 times over. And then we're also seeing the cost of construction.
So what is that really like? So if Johnny, my uncle, he's been working as a union laborer for years and years and years, he could possibly potentially retire in the next few years. And we saw that pension go in half in the next. So what does that mean?
I mean, you might have to retire at 60 anymore. You might have to work to 65, 70 to see the market recover and be able to retire with dignity, right? Not have to take a second job on in retirement. So it's really affecting the mindset of members, and if they're even able to retire, right? Part of being a good union brother and sister is to provide for the members so they can retire in dignity, right? And not have to work the rest of their life and be able to enjoy the gold years, right? And that dream is kind of slipping away.
Yeah, I think the picture should be painted. I wanted to actually just talk about this emergency that's typically not on the front page of the Chronicle, the East Bay Times, or even the New York Times. The tariff emergency it's really just that. So it's pensions, and I know that you all are so much a part of this conversation around home building, around development. There can be a big bad wolf of development, but the reality is we have a housing crisis in this state, in this country. Liz has done such great work with others, as with Buffy and Matt Haney and Mia and others who are legislating at the State House. But we have a mandate to build tens of thousands of homes in the region. How is that shift actually impacted because of the tariffs?
I think it's affecting directly. The cost of lumber and other materials for building supplies, the sheetrock and the nails are mainly imported, that they're being affected by the tariffs. And developers who have been holding off on producing housing stock, who thought now was the time to build, are rethinking that as interest rates haven't come down like they were expected to. Tariffs are increasing building costs, and a lot of projects are getting pushed out or put on hold for indefinite periods of time. As we were coming out of COVID, right, we thought now might have been the time that we saw jobs start coming back and housing production ramp up, and we're still waiting for that time, right? We thought this year was going to be the year, and it hasn't shown its face yet, so.
So we haven't talked. This is not like we actually haven't rehearsed this at all. So I'm just kind of throwing things at you. I heard today in this roundtable, and I actually was thinking of you, and I said, I'm gonna bring this up tonight. You know, the good men and women of this union are gonna be working on the Children's Hospital Project, is that right?
That's correct.
The Children's Hospital Project, and we're talking about babies, there will be a direct impact on expanding this hospital because of the terror war. Like, it is a real thing. So expanding the sickle cell lab, expanding the heart transplant capabilities, creating new hospital beds. There's a part of the new wing at the Children's Hospital where the most sick children in the region will finally be able to have single rooms, and that project is now potentially on hold. I mean, this is very real. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the other things that folks might not expect because of this trade war, how this is going to affect folks right here on the ground?
And some of the things we're seeing are the downside to renewables that our current administration is not enforcing renewables in California's renewable portfolio standard, trying us to that mark we set for 2050. The EV charging systems that were promised to California to bring the nation, the solar projects that were coming in, the heat pumps that were supposed to come in and save the environment, a lot of those projects getting pushed off. And if you have the money to do it, it's going to cost you 25, 30, 50, 100% more now to go out and buy a heat pump or an EV charger for your house. And then the large scale projects, the developers are scared now to invest in solar panels or whatever it is to use the renewable energy that we so that we need to try and get ourselves off the fossil fuels.
I mean, so much what I've been trying to do since I got elected. It's only been 3.5 months, and it's felt like 3.5 years. Trying to be here as much as possible on the ground, hearing the real stories. I'm on 2 committees that are pretty consequential. And when you get to Congress, you actually don't get to choose the committees that you get on. The leadership of your party gets to choose your committees. And as you all know, some of you know, I really wanted transportation and infrastructure. So much of my background, of course, as you know, has been transit focused, making sure that we actually have a transit future in this very transit-rich region, but we haven't been getting support from the federal government that we deserved. We're wanting to be on T&I, got on small business, which is actually extremely important right now. Again, labor and small business are walking hand in hand in this moment, and also oversight, which is literally the oversight body of the full government. It's a very, very powerful committee, although being in the minority, we're not able to call hearings, we're not able to do what I would have loved for us to do if we would have won the House. That being said, you know, every single minute, and I know no one watches C-SPAN, although my mother is starting to watch C-SPAN for me. I am trying to use every single minute in committee, every single minute on the phone with Republican partners, and we have very little in common. But you know what we have in common is being working class. We have in common folks wanting good jobs. I mean, do you have any message for me to send back? I mean, you know, we share the same values, but I think we will win this crazy moment because as the dust continues to settle, poor people from around the country, they have no choice but to rise up. I don't care red or blue. This is real. These effects are real. We'll talk about Medicaid and Medicare in a second, but the hurting of our economy on mom and pop shops and working class people is really real. I mean, you know, any call to action from IB, I'm sure you would have.
Yeah, I think you should not give up the faith, right? Stand up for what you believe in, fight back. Don't give in to the naysayers that this is the new norm.
That's right.
Stand up for your own beliefs, right? And don't let somebody else tell you what you believe in.
I appreciate that.
Believe from the heart, right? And if your heart tells you we need to stand up and fight, do it, right? Don't let people tell you that's the wrong thing to do, or let somebody else silence your voice. So I had this talk at our membership meeting the last couple of months, and it's amazing how many people that we had a rousing conversation of stand up for yourself, believe in what you believe in, the union's got your back. We want to make sure you have a good wage, a good healthcare plan for you and your family, and a pension so you can retire in dignity, right? And how many people that spurred that, the chance of those being taken away from us was on the horizon, right? So it inspired a lot of members to stand up and fight, and I think they're bringing their extended families into the fight. And we're seeing a lot more people show up in these town halls that have that same belief of the American dream and standing up for what's right for all of us, and we all deserve the same piece of the pie. So
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I just want to say, you know, before you bring off the stage, the conversation about, and I see you, that's so but let me get this out. So today we did a hearing, you might see some, a round table with members from the port. And again, it's a complicated infrastructure, that port. But again, California being the fourth largest economy, thank you, so great representation with Liz, San Leandro, Ortega, the fourth largest economy in the world. We surpassed Japan because of our ports and because of the infrastructure that we're creating. Centrist Democrats have said that we need to abandon some of the most fundamental values that we have to win. I absolutely think not. Because here's the deal, what we know. Right. Here's what we know. Without labor, in conversations with the private sector, you know what we have? We have tall, beautiful buildings downtown where the windows fall out. Remember that? Right? I'm actually living in a small apartment building downtown Oakland, and I went in the other day, and actually, because I asked a couple of folks to ask Andreas, I was like, I don't think this apartment is needing labor. We deserve amazing housing opportunities for poor people and middle-class people and people with resources across the board. If we're going to build low-income housing, it should be the best, right? We should never, ever sell out low-income housing. So we're talking about housing opportunities and building shelter and treatment on demand. Sitting in that room today, it's really clear, not only is it very difficult to legislate in DC, it's also very difficult here on the ground where we believe in 90% of the same things to be on one accord. What I won't stand for is for us not speaking in one voice. We had that moment, we actually had to realize this, and we actually know who the real enemy is, and it's not us. So labor and the port and the private sector who's making resources about being here and stimulating the economy, we all actually have to be in one voice as we fight Washington, D.C. I really want to thank you. I want to thank labor for being in some very difficult challenges. Your call to action, my call to action from you as we move through, the next couple of very, very difficult quarters in this region with our mayor, again, with our new mayor in Oakland, with folks in the state legislature. I don't think we ever need to sacrifice our values, but we definitely need labor to be a leader in articulating why we need skilled workers who are paid a prevailing wage, why those workers create safer communities and they send their babies to school and they put braces on their teeth. If we can create more jobs, we can have a more safe Oakland. If we can create more jobs, we'll have more homeowners in San Leandro able to pay this mortgage. We actually have one vision, and I really just want to stand up and thank you so much. Thank you for having the audacity to hold this here. We want to do so much more together.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is an opportunity to hear from you. It's such an honor, but at the same time, I rely on our labor leaders to be extremely forceful and be on the phone with our office. As a lot of you, I saw a lot of the names, and I realized that y'all have also been calling my office. Thank you. Thank you so much. We actually really do need the energy that's coming out of San Leandro. We need the stories. And I'm so thankful for them. Let's take it away.
Hey, thank you so much, Congresswoman. Thank you so much, Greg. So right now, we'd like to get just a little update from you about your work in Congress before we jump into the question and answer portion.
So I want to thank staff for creating a beautiful outline. But I just want to tell you guys a little bit about what the 4 months have been like. And your questions, I know, are going to be illustrative. But my goodness, I won the election in November. And 4 days after, I went to DC to begin the orientation. Now, it wasn't clear that I won yet, right? And because Alameda County is notorious for counting slow, we know that. So House admin said, Ms. Simon, we'll buy you a ticket to DC, but we're not buying you a ticket to come back home because we don't know if you won yet. So it took a week for the election to be certified, and I got a plane ticket home. And then I had to really pack up my daughter, who is 14, and we did move to DC. I am living downtown Oakland. But in those first 2 weeks, again, picking myself off the floor, after we lost collectively, we as a nation lost that election. I don't care red or blue, we lost that election. And, all I knew if we had a Harris presidency, that it would be imperfect, and yet that we could have organized the West Wing. on all issues. Again, I'm an anti-war politician through and through. I just am. I wanted to organize against stopping the war, right? I wanted to be able to push transportation and infrastructure. I wanted to push on housing opportunities for this year, the first 2 terms when we get in it. It's, of course, it's a Trump presidency. Within those first 2 weeks of orientation, which, it's Republicans and Democrats. We're staying in the same hotel, right? I'm bouncing babies on my lap on the buses because every day, we're having orientation back at the Capitol. We're going to see, the monuments. We're being, trained up on parliamentary procedure. People are bringing their partners and their kids. And, I have worked with folks in community who haven't seen me as human my whole life. I've been on both sides of the table. That said, I was shocked after being sworn in, and yes, Barbara Lee traveled back from Oakland to sit with me on the floor while Mike Johnson swore me in. It was a beautiful, beautiful moment. And that very same day, we had to cast our first votes. And I was really clear, you all sent me to go to Congress, not knowing who the president was going to be, but as soon as he was elected, I was clear what you sent me to do. Oh, hell no, every single opportunity. Don't get the glasses twisted. I'm a street fighter, right? I actually fear no one but God. And the reality for me is in that first vote, voting against the rules package, I was clear on what we had to do. I'm so thankful for my folks who brought signs today. Listen, this is the choir, but without literally the violin and the piano playing the right way, the symphony don't sound right. So I want to hear your frustration because it's definitely there. I tell you the story because the day after being sworn in to get my committee, my first committee is oversight, and this is the committee that's where the street fighting happens, right? That's the values of the party, both parties. We are pontificating our values. Not a lot of legislating going on in there. It's the most raggedy experience that I could have ever expected. Nancy Mace challenges Jasmine Crockett to a fight. We are sitting there, the freshmen. And there's some really strong freshmen that came in, and I myself, I'm just shocked. But it was very clear in that first committee what was going to be required of me. So I want to talk just a bit about what we've done and the kind of member that I'm now understanding what's at stake, where I aspire to be, how I aspire to represent you all. It was clear that there's a lot of junior members and members who've been around a few years who are big voices in Congress. And I've been a big voice in the Bay Area for 30 years, fighting for all the things that that I've done, whether it's police accountability and making sure that our law enforcement officers are trained and thoughtful and doing what they're supposed to be doing instead of the stuff that they're not supposed to be doing. I've worked in juvenile justice reform, I've worked in transit justice, I've housed hundreds of people, I've led employment training programs that pay people double the minimum wage to stay out of systems. I've done that work. I had no idea with those babies that I was bouncing and the friends that I thought I made on the Republican side, just how nasty things were going to get so quickly. So quickly. I don't have any Republican friends.
Yeah, me neither.
But I have Republican colleagues. So you sent me to Washington, D.C., not to be a principal, but to be a legislator. So the first thing that I did, we got sworn in on the 3rd. The inauguration was on the 20th. The first thing I did is I gave all 177 tickets to the inauguration to my freshman Republican colleagues. That gave me an opportunity to begin organizing my Republican colleagues. I need to be able to knock on their doors and get a door open. I need to be able to make a call and get it answered. We are only 3 votes shy of having the majority in the House, right? So I am not in any means not understanding what my job is as a legislator. So I want to talk about legislation for a second. Oftentimes members, particularly progressives, which I am a progressive, and I'll talk about a little bit about what that means to me. I refuse to give up our values. I refuse to stop talking about faith and justice and labor and yes, race. I refuse to throw transgender children under the bus. I'm not going to do that.
That's not progressive, that's human.
I won't do it. And I think it's reprehensible if we think about ourselves as king Democrats You know, Martin Luther King, we overuse the symbolism of that movement, but if you think back what they were saying, they said that workers needed to be humanized, that we needed to celebrate our deep differences. There are over 150 languages spoken in this district alone. 150 languages, that is our strength. I was told that I wouldn't be able to legislate. Progressives, they said, we can do a lot of messaging bills and you can be at a lot of protests. I'll do all of that too. And I have been at every single one. Did you see us, because it's not just me, us at DOE, when we were trying to get into those doors, I was right there. USAID, right there. With the physician scientists, right there. We have been out every single day. After the floor, I'm going to the streets in DC and here. But I said, I wasn't sent to DC. I didn't move my little baby girl. I'm a widow. I'm a single parent. I didn't move her there to just have a bullhorn. I came to legislate. I've already passed my first bill. And what you will see is there are some folks who go into Congress and they're extreme voices, extreme in the best way possible. They're pointing out the values, but I'm there to do both. I'm there to legislate, and I'm there to attack this, the bastardization of our democracy. I'm on a small business committee, and I'm glad I got that committee. Hakeem Jeffries and Catherine Clark, a lot of people have issues with our leadership. I understand. That being said, they've been wonderful mentors to me. They convinced me not to run for freshman class president. They said, we have more things for you to do. You just need to be getting the freshmen together. At happy hour, Lateefah, we actually want you to be a deputy policy whip. So as a freshman, it's almost unheard of that a freshman would get into leadership so quickly in the Democratic Party. But again, you set me to actually lead and not just to sit. So I'm a deputy whip, which basically means I'm bringing issues to the party every week. And because I have that position, I'm able to push very strongly for what we believe in. So as we've been talking about the attack on NIH funding, I'm so proud that I've been a leader in putting that issue out so that we can fight tooth and nail. I'm so proud to be in the smaller rooms rather than bigger rooms, talking about the realities of, you hamper DOE, you tear apart the Department of Education. It's not just taking away funding from the states. We're also, we're hurting West Virginia. We're hurting poor whites and poor Black folks and disabled mothers who are like my mother, who really worked so very hard to get me resources when I was a little kid, a disabled little kid going through K through 12. It's when you shutter the Department of Education, you also shutter the Office of Civil Rights, which is one of the few institutions in this country that took up the investigations for sexual assault on college campuses. So my experience organizing in this district, my whole adult career, being a policy with, being in leadership in the Democratic Party, you better believe that every single opportunity I get to put out our issues, I am, and to see those issues now become issues du jour that we're fighting for. I'm so very proud. So very proud, and although I know that there's so much to do, I am a progressive, and when I say progressive, for me, that means getting shit done. It's not just being in an ideological battle with everyone at any time. It means fighting for housing, it means fighting for good schools, it means fighting for good jobs, and it means actually shaping a trajectory where the material conditions of people's lives change. So yes, I'm also vice chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Also, I'm the only freshman to be a vice chair in that space. I'm the vice chair of the Equality Caucus, which is again a caucus of LGBTQ folks. I'm not a queer woman. I am a straight Black woman. I'm a widow. I'm a disabled person. But I need to be in spaces to stand up for brothers and sisters and siblings who have so little voice because they are being deeply stepped on by all forms of government and community. So yes, I'm on the Equality Caucus and the Disability Caucus. I'm caucusing it out, okay? That being said, going back to the legislative strategy, I will be putting a number of bills in the hopper. I actually have a second bill. The first bill passed with full support of both Democrats and Republicans. It can be done. The second bill, again, the first bill was about making sure that small businesses in our district and beyond actually get new resources under the SBA, and that the cheats who actually cheated, and they were mostly big corporations who cheated during PPP, that they don't actually get to dip into that pot anymore. And that the neighborhood auto body shop, which, again, you see my staff here, if folks are having problems getting grants from SBCA, getting loans, dealing with partnerships with community banks, call on my office. That's the work that we are doing in this very time, like right now. I really wanted to make sure that folks knew that I understood the lifeblood of particularly San Leandro. It's a small business. It's not the big box. So the second bill, which I am co-sponsoring with a Republican colleague, not friend, we will also have full bipartisan support because what we're asking SBA to do is to incentivize small businesses for hiring disabled people. And it's a good bill. I am going to be there to do good things. Now, I just want to be clear. The democracy is an ICU. So I'm talking about good small business bills. But what we need, I just wanted to give you some of the texture of the day in and day out work that I'm doing on the legislative front. But the big work right now, for me, the big work is being very clear about the strategy forward. So yes, I signed on to over 147 strongly worded letters, but I want to be clear as somebody who has been for all of my adult life, focused on bringing back tangible things to real people, strongly worded letters are not going to win us back to democracy, right? I understand. Neither are really good small business pieces of legislation. I get it. I'm going to do that work. But voting hell no every single opportunity is very important. Every single day that I'm on the floor, I will not capitulate. I am whipping as a part of my job as a deputy policy whip, but not only to whip Democrats, but also to be on the phone in the faces of some Republicans that we think that we can win back. Listen, when you lose the House and you lose the Senate and you lose the executive branch, and some would argue you lose the Supreme Court, it's not just a crisis, it's a catastrophe. It's a disaster. And consequences in bad elections, I mean, we're seeing them and we feel them. There is a litigation strategy. And so while it might not be very, very clear from leadership, there is a litigation strategy. There is over 100 to 262 cases right now in the courts. My partners that I and others are working with, like Democracy Forward, we are winning. It may not seem like it because this is a dark ass time, but we are working day in and day out with our litigation partners, the ACLU and PFLAG. It may not feel like we're winning, but the reason why the Trump administration will be held in contempt is not because members of Congress, it's because of the collaboration that we're having with the public and private bar. To say absolutely not, we must be constitutional. Objectively, we must stop this deep, deep overreach. So the litigation strategy is really important. The second piece, which, why I've been in the streets so much, why I've been at every single action that I can, why I'm going to be going around the country trying to convince young and brilliant folks to run for these seats for 2026, but we got to get them announcing now. You'll see me all over the country. We can win back the House. The movement that some of you have wedded yourselves to in the last few weeks, it will create the durability of a long-standing movement. And listen, I'm not ahistorical, all right? Like, yes, I have an MBA focused on public sector finance. I have a degree in public policy, but I'm also a deep student of history. If we don't have a durable movement, authoritarianism will not just creep, it will flow. It will flow. So it is important that you're on Shattuck Avenue with those signs. It really is important that you're downtown at Lake Merritt Park with those signs. It's important that all over the world and here in District 12, that there is a resistant movement that I am gladly and joyfully a part of it. I want to continue organizing with you all, and Indivisible, I know some of you all are here, and thank you so much for that work. There is a movement that will endure. And I want to tell you, when we're talking about movement, the hands-off movement that, I've been a part of, and others, we've been activated in 50 states, not just blue states. Not just blue states. What is so real, when you think about Medicaid and you think about Medicare and the attacks on these entitlements and Social Security, I've been talking about these things every committee. It's not just poor people of color. We're not just talking about the folks that, the Republican Party has problematized since forever. We're actually talking about a whole sector. So what is really important for me in my day-to-day organizing is to have conversations, and then we'll go to questions, but I want to get this part out. Have conversations, be at the door of my Republican colleagues, making it extremely clear that when you cut off Medicaid, even if you take a slice of the pie out of Medicaid or Medicare, you're not just hurting grandma and throwing her in the river, which you are doing, but you're also dilapidating a whole system of care throughout the country. I'll give you an example. Kaiser, Sutter. I'll give you an example. Our county hospital. You place that hospital in Saginaw, Michigan. Let's just say Highland is in Saginaw. Let's say it's in West Virginia. If 30% of the revenue from that hospital is coming from Caid and Care and Part B, and you take that away, the person with the most resource, when they're coming in and they have an arrhythmia, or they need a stem cell transplant, or they're going in for their diabetes check, the pathologist no longer works there because they can't afford those reimbursements. Our whole healthcare institution, our sector is currently and will be further in crisis. Why I believe we will win, why I believe we will be able to turn some of these Republicans, and by the way, it is a cult. I've never seen anything like it. The racism, the misogyny, the radicalism on the other side, it is crazy. They do fear for not only their seats, they are also fearing for their own lives.
Yeah.
That's how sick it's become. Yeah. But this movement that is enduring, and I keep looking at you, my sign, is you can't, right? You can't get away from the fact that folks who go red and who go blue are seeing the destruction of this politic take hold in their own community. Folks are getting it. The soybean crops are rotting because we decided to stop USAID support, which is insane and crazy. The most powerful peacemaking that we could do. I know our bombs and our guns don't do it. Being able to support anti-famine projects all over the world for the past 25 years has kept us more safe than any military operation, right? When we stop migration, we halt migration by creating opportunities for folks to get HIV drugs and healthcare that they need in different parts of the world. When we literally we're drunk in food that says your friends from the United States, that's every sticker had that. You know where that food came from? Iowa. Yeah. So there's so much that I can talk about. We have to do a better job on the website, giving you all the things that we're doing, both legislatively, again, our organizing in the House, our work with folks here on the ground, our work in district. Every time I'm here, which is basically every week, I'm meeting with fire, I'm meeting with police, I'm meeting with local community organizations. I'm meeting with our organizations that are so concerned about this immigration catastrophe. You know where my values stand, and I will not be a part of the conversation where we're saying there's nothing that we can do. There's nothing that we can do. Many of your mothers, and they're not from us, I'm gonna give it to you. Many of our mothers in this country were born into a country where they didn't have rights to the democracy. Women couldn't vote. Black women surely couldn't vote. You all know the history, Mayor, we talked about it, the history of San Leandro. Folks were not given their full rights to purchase land even here. We've had to fight for these freedoms. So many of us have not been able to really see what truth and justice and dignity really looks like, but now the full nation is experiencing it. And for that, I am so proud and honored to represent the district. Because like I said, I'm a street fighter, I'm scrappy. I want to actually do what I know we can do, is fight this moment, organize, and begin winning. Because we're certainly not winning right now. When I say we're winning in the court, there's some good victories that are happening, but pressure needs to continue. Let's some of these questions. Thank you.
Congresswoman. Got a nice loud voice though, don't worry. Yeah.
Oh.
And yeah, there we go. Talk louder. There we go. All right, we're gonna do our best to get through as many of these questions as we can. And if folks,
I want to do like a little TED talk.
if folks really want to line up and ask the question, please do now so that I can see you and then if you really if you are unable to stand up, we also have staff who can bring a mic to you if you want to raise your hand. All right. All right, let's start with, you talked a little bit about this, Congresswoman, but what is being done to stop illegal executive actions that are affecting our economy, our civil rights, and the livelihoods of many people. What can be done if the court's rulings are being ignored?
Yeah. So, you know, we have an executive branch who refuses to follow the law. I mean, there's executive orders that are coming out daily that are intended to send you into an abyss. And they're cruel and they're awful. And the question is, what do we do? You know, again, this constitutional crisis is very real. And you all know the story, you know, when the framers came out, that little building in Philadelphia, and the wife of the mayor of Philadelphia at the time runs up to the framers and says, what do we have? What do we have? And the framers said, we have a republic just as long as we
Can keep it.
can let it stand, that we can keep it. Well, here's where we are. We're less than a 300-year-old republic, and the republic is under attack in ways we've never seen it. So the executive branch is not following the law. I am not disillusioned with what that means. There's not a big accountability structure, but I think that the idea is we keep pressure on the court. I am incredibly inspired by the last action of the Supreme Court, the action that said absolutely cannot disappear people into gulags. You know, I think that the Supreme Court, while the majority is sexist and I believe racist, and I believe that they're homophobes and they're anti-reproductive care, I will say that I believe that they are constitutionalists.
Yeah.
And so we're in for a fight, and they don't want to be disrespected. They got jobs for life. They're not the weak members of the Republican Party, right? In terms of being on the House floor. They don't have to run for election. We have to keep the pressure on the courts. There is no system really of accountability if the executive branch doesn't want to follow along. It's extremely unprecedented. That said, we don't let up. And we have to have, I mean, Clyburn told me, Representative Clyburn, who literally marched with Dr. King, he said, you know, even in those moments when we were in jail and we created a no bail campaign, civil rights workers, the young students, we still had faith in the courts. He said, I am so nervous right now because my faith in the courts is completely waned. But just last week, he said something might be shifting. So I think it's not just using government actors to pressure the court. It has to be the infrastructure that many of you in this room have built. The ACLU and their national litigation team, they are not sleeping. Democracy Forward, they're not sleeping. I am partnering with them all day long to make sure that we're extending that pressure. Folks are counting on us. I wish I had a better answer. When you have an executive branch, they don't care about the law, they don't care about the truth. Until the state courts, hear me out, until the state courts, until the federal bench, until the circuit courts start holding individuals of the Trump administration in contempt and incarcerating them, that is when we will see the administration have a little bit of, oh my goodness, we are violating every single clause in the United States Constitution.
Thank you. I'll ask one more question and then we'll go to the microphone. What are the Democratic Party's plans to become more unified?
Oh. That's the question.
Okay, so turn off the live stream. No, I think it's a very good question. The Republican Party is a Big Tent party, right? So there are three ideological caucuses within the Democratic Party. There is the Congressional Progressives, right? Then there's the New Dems, which they're pretty thoughtfully progressive, but they're centrist. And then there's what we call the Blue Dogs, that they're not Republicans in the sense that they are pro-choice, but they're fiscal conservatives. You know, I do think, and it's the way that I work, that we don't have a party that moves unless we're united. I gotta tell you, the Republicans are crazy united.
Yeah.
And I believe that 90% of them don't believe what this president is exporting, but they are united.
Yeah.
They are organizing. I see it on the floor during the last reconciliation vote, which of course, you know, I voted hell no on that budget bill. But you saw the 13 holdouts being organized one by one. They were being called out and they were going to talk to the president of the United States.
Yeah.
And they came back in and they sold their people out.
Yep.
They sold their souls out.
Yep.
So if we can, as a Democratic Party, but I want to say The House Democrats, we have been united on this budget. We have been united on Medicaid. We've been united on Medicare. We have been united on calling out the blasphemy of this administration. The Senate Dems are pissing me off. And, you know, again, those are my people. And I'm very disappointed in Chuck Schumer.
Yeah.
That said, I believe in our democracy, and I believe, you know, if our leaders can't get it together, then you all make the decision of who holds these seats. You all make the decision. So it is important to call the Democrats that are giving us a hard time. Those are our folks, but we collectively have to organize ourselves. But we also know that the Republicans, if they, listen, my phones are ringing off the hook. Thank you, Indivisible, thank you. But you got me, you got me. The Republican freshman across the hall, ain't nobody calling him. He's not being held to account, right? So you know I will always vote to our standard. But really, we actually have to unify, again, our party, but we are unified right now in this moment. House Democrats, I'm not in the Senate, so I cannot speak for them. I shouldn't say I'm pissed off at Senate Democrats. I was pissed off at Chuck Schumer. I just am. I just am. We have a little bit of leverage. We need to keep it. We need to sustain it. We should never give the Republican Party 1 inch of leeway.
Yeah.
If you have to shut down the government for 3 damn days, it's already being shut down.
Yeah.
It's already firing thousands of Social Security workers. So when I lost my husband and I had to stand out, and wasn't even a Republican administration. I had to stand out in the Berkeley Social Security office for an hour and a half to see somebody to get a $600 death benefit. I know that is now 3 hours at Berkeley. I know that healthcare, it's not just healthcare. They've shuttered just in the last couple of weeks, the HSS staff in San Francisco. Our Head Starts are not getting paid, right? So they've already shut down government. Every tool that we have to use it.
Yeah.
We have to use it. And it will be uncomfortable, but damn it, it is already uncomfortable. It is already uncomfortable. Pensions are being slashed. There's no union rights anymore for federal workers. The government is already falling apart. So every single leverage piece, I'm calling on Senate Democrats to do everything that they can. I believe we are united.
Thank you. With that, I'd like to go to the mic on the floor. Hello, thanks for coming.
1 second.
Hi, my name is Christina Malafan. I identify with being in the disabled community, and I've heard so much fear about the future. And there is so much hope and brightness because so frequently I hear Lateefah Simon. So I just wanted to say thank you for that, because I'm hearing so much fear and there's so much hope when you're thinking. And I wanted to ask, well, with the fear, is there's all the pros cuts because so many politicians I'm finding say, oh, we really care about this minority and this disabled person. This is like, okay, stop saying that and actually like support us and don't make us dependent. So, yeah, I wanted to ask, what do you see as, where can you go? What can roadmap be? Because this is really scary possible future right now, and I know that you're fighting against it, but
Yeah.
it really is about to come. So
Yeah. Right. You know, I feel you so deeply. And thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for coming. You being here means a lot to me. When I came into Congress saying I was going to be an advocate for disability communities, I really minted, and Disability Action and others. Ooh, you talk about blowing up my phone. I'm relying on Disability Action and other organizations every single day. So thank you. So Social Security, for instance, I've been bringing up disabled folks every opportunity I get, both in committee and my advocacy with the Speaker's Office, the advocacy with leadership in the Democratic Party. I do have some hope here, because what, the disability community has done so beautifully. And I don't know if, some of you all remember the fight for ADA, when you had wheelchair users and blind folks literally laid out on the congressional steps to fight for the most basic of human rights, which we still haven't received. ADA is still not implicated in ways where we deserve. But where we are right now, in terms of particularly Social Security, the first bill that I passed with the chairperson of the Small Business Committee, we had a long conversation, and he was very clear. I want you talking to every single Republican with a disabled child. And I was like, that's my work. That's what I'll be doing. We're going to win, and we're going to win on this particular issue of Social Security benefits for disabled people and people with disabled children, because, again, this is not a partisan issue. There's no room to cut the cuts that they want, but to go into Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. But hands off our babies, hands off our disabled folks. When I say we're going to win, I have to believe that, because we can't live in a country, straight up, look, we can't live in a country that the Republican Party has basically said, we're the party of the Bible. Honey, they don't know me. I'm like, okay, well, when we really talk about scripture, again, the conversations that I've been having with Republicans, let's talk about scripture. And it's very clear that both in the Torah and in the Bible and in the Quran, if we talk about scripture, that you don't move forward laws that create harsh outcomes for widows, the disabled, and the fatherless. Period. So I do want you to count on me, and knowing that every single day, it's not enough to say we're fighting. I have to believe that we will win. And what, again, being a good legislator is every single day being on the phone with folks from the opposition party, convincing them that that cut is not a cut that will sustain your district. It won't sustain this country. We are in a Social Security crisis. We only have 10 more years in that trust. We will need Social Security reform, but not on the back of disabled people, not on the back of disabled children. So I would love to talk to you more. But, one of the few folks in the Congress with a disability, it's my job, it's my honor to every single day integrate, again, our hopes, our dreams, our emergency into our politics. So thank you so much for bringing up the question. I want to make sure you're also connected to our office.
Thank you. All right, so just want to mention, we're going to extend the time about 15 minutes, just so folks are aware. And, we of course wanted to have this time also, y'all could hear from the Congresswoman, but we also want to hear from you. So thank you to everyone who submitted a question. We hear it, and we're going to log it and make sure we respond. I also wanted us to hear from the folks on the line. So maybe if we do rapid fire, we don't have to respond to every. I get it. Yeah, let's maybe do like 3 people back to back.
Okay, great. Ms. Simon, thank you so much for being here. This is fantastic. I have 2 questions, and I'll keep it brief. One is very general, and the other is much more specific. So the first question, the general question is, as you can tell, your constituency is awake in a way that we have not been perhaps ever. And so we are here, and we are loud, and we're demonstrating and doing everything we can to make a difference.
Thank you.
I think it would be really, really helpful to understand kind of what tactics, what things that we can do in a timely, laser-guided, pinpoint fashion,
Yep.
hearing from you and the other members of Congress so that we can act in a way that is as useful to you as possible.
Yep.
So that's a general question.
Okay.
And so the more specific question is, it seems to me that a big part of the root cause of the problem is the corrosive power of money in politics. what would you say to the notion that has been raised by folks like Bernie and AOC about how publicly funded elections could curtail these kinds of corrupting influences of money?
Got it.
And I'll leave it at that.
I love it.
Thank you.
I'll answer both of those. We're gonna take two more. Those are very important questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here tonight, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I have been in the nonprofit sector now for 30 years, and mostly in the arts sector of the nonprofit sector. And I'm very concerned
Yes.
about HR 9495, which gives the Secretary of the Treasury the opportunity to cancel a 501c3 status without review and without recourse.
Yep.
And I'm curious to know if that is on anybody's radar
Yes, it is.
currently, and what, if anything, we can do to help put pressure to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yes, it is.
Thank you again.
It's a great question.
Hi, I like what you guys said about speaking from the heart, so I'm here speaking from my heart.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to know what you're going to do about the intact males in the women's locker rooms, in the bathrooms, and the intact male sex offenders being housed in women's prison. You know they're raping, right?
Thank you.
I have one more.
Yes.
I'd like to ask you if you would propose a law that states it's not child abuse not to socially or medically transition your child.
I'll start with that first. So one of the things that I deeply believe in, and I will never, ever falter from this, decisions that doctors and families and children make together, those are their decisions.
Yeah.
Those are good decisions. And I say that because they are their decisions. So when I was pregnant with my daughter, I share my story because it's an important one. When I was pregnant with Layla, my husband's now deceased, he died of cancer. We were pregnant with twins. And we lost her brother during my pregnancy, right? And regardless what you think about choice, Congress has no authority to be in conversations with folks around what's happening with their bodies. It's the doctors and the families. That doctor takes a Hippocratic oath. And so again, I'm talking about reproductive choice, and we're talking about bodily autonomy. Where we can disagree and agree, and where I want to be clear about this, we can disagree about gender affirming care. But we certainly, I believe, can agree. And I gave you that story about what happened with my children, that I had to have a DNC. Congress should not have been in that conversation. They should never be in that conversation. Congress should never be in a conversation between doctor's care and a child. We should be able to agree on that. I want to address the conversation about nonprofits. It is on our radar. I've ran successful NGOs doing work that government could not do for almost 30 years. I would bring up the Women's Freedom Center. I've worked with sexually trafficked victims and girls coming home from institutions for 30 years. We were able to get them off probation in ways that our probation department couldn't, into good jobs. There's an attack on not only nonprofit organizations, but philanthropic institutions who are doing what government can't do. It takes 3 years sometimes to get a government contract. Philanthropy can do that work quicker because government can't get it together. The Republican Party and the president is going to start attacking nonprofit organizations that are doing work in community. Well, you know what? They're going to have to start attacking their own nonprofits. And so I feel like we're going to win that fight, and we're definitely going to take it up in court. I've been working with, again, the Council on Foundations and other parties here in the Bay Area to make sure that our nonprofit organizations have the legal supports that they need, that their finance departments are equipped. So if their funding, literally their funding is being frozen, but they're also their own holdings, there's threats that if this law moves forward, not only will their 501c3s be yanked away, their assets will also be yanked away. We're talking about treatment programs. We're talking about programs that are training folks who are coming out of incarceration. We're talking about the Girl Scouts. We're talking like the overreaching chaos of this administration's willingness to gut what we know It just can't be tolerated. There was another question I really wanted to, around immigration, around the disappearing of our folks. Again, we're having some small wins there, but the retributive nature of this administration to deport people, particularly people of color that are immigrants, it's the scariest we've seen since 1942 Public Act laws. I mean, it's crazy. It is the work of my office. You know, we really want to make sure if you're hearing things that are going on, we want to make sure that we're of service to you there. Was there one more thing that, there was something else?
How to best take action.
How to best take action. Thank you. Okay, so 3 things. And actually, you know, what we can do is we can actually send out, I actually have a full list. I do need you to follow me in this moment and continue to get people registered to vote, right? Not just here, but around the country. Follow Indivisible, there's ACLU, there are other organizations that have clear action timelines for regular everyday people in their communities to push against this authoritarianism. It is important that we actually, I mean, our voter turnout, even in this region, is awful. Can you imagine what it is in Decatur, Georgia, right? We have to get good people in elected positions so they can fight back on the state and national level. 2, I mean, again, pinpointing, be out in the streets. There has to be a tangible movement that is durable, right? There has to be a tangible, and the 3rd thing is, well, actually there's 4. The 3rd thing is, and I don't know if how ethics is gonna be happy with me saying this, support organizations that are on the front line, particularly organizations that are suing the hell out of the government every single day. We get too many text messages saying, $5 will save democracy. And not so many cases, no, but there are some organizations that are doing really the light work of standing with members of Congress with a conscience to hold this executive branch. The 4th would be to challenge my office every opportunity that you can to make sure that I am also in the streets. I am on the floor. I am voting hell no. I am signing on to legislation, not just messaging bills, but real opportunity. Hell yeah, I want to impeach the president. But guess what? We don't have the votes. So until we get the votes, and we can get the votes by folks in this room continuing to work with other jurisdictions to elect folks to turn around the House. But in the meantime, it's holding the executive branch to the account. And that's going to be making sure that members like me are speaking up consistently, that we're doing our damn jobs, that we're on the floor, that we're organizing Republicans in any possible way that we can. Those 4 things, I mean, it's what we can do in this moment. We can get to A to maybe D. I want us to get to Z, meaning that we'll actually take the power back, right? We're not going to get there overnight, but we can't sit in the analysis of paralysis and just hope things are going to get better. We have to claw our way back. Thank you.
All right, let's take the next 3 rapid fire one more time.
Hi, you spoke just a minute ago about Democrat unity.
Yeah.
Recently, almost 100% of the Democrats in Congress voted against a bill that would keep biological males out of women's locker rooms and women's sports. As a successful woman, how do you come to terms with this, selling out women?
Yeah.
And furthermore, I want to say I know members of the Martin Luther King family, and if he was alive today, he would reject the radical transgender ideology of today.
Well, let me tell you this. I appreciate the question. Well, no. Democratic spaces are really important to have to be able to have the conversation. So I want to tell you this, and I'm going to be really clear about this. And I challenge anyone in this room to this. I have more experience standing up for women and girls than anybody in this room. I have run the Young Women's Freedom Center, and I have been on the line for victims of sexual assaults, of victims of folks who have been trafficked in our streets, of young women who have been in jail cells and in prisons, and women who have been raped at the federal facility right here in Alameda County. I have built housing for young women. I have employed girls of the foster care system completely spit out and left for dead. You will not tell me what women and girls deserve. I have been there for them for the past 30 years, day in and day out. Let me tell you something about good government. Good government doesn't authorize coaches to look at the genitals of a 5-year-old playing t-ball. All right? Good government ensures that children have a right to learn. You have 10 transgender folks in college level sports at the highest level. You want to focus on that? You know what I want to focus on? The 8,000 people who sleep on the streets in this county. Democratic unity. Democratic unity means that we are prioritizing the lifeblood of the poorest, of the sickest, of the elderly, of the disabled. We don't tear apart families. Let me tell you something. Transgender kids come from straight families. That's right. Talking about it. And I will hold down that politics. I will never throw transgender children under the bus. I will never throw disabled children under the bus. I will never throw black children under the bus. Any storekeepers under the bus. The politics of the division of these politics want you to focus on 1% of the population while not looking at oligarchs who are taking your Medicaid and Medicare. I love it. And later on, and how dare we whitewash the radicalism of the King legacy. I won't let you do it. I won't let you do it. You might know members of the King family, and so do I. You want to call Bernice? I have her number. You want to talk about Martin Luther King III? I have sat with him. The politic of radical nonviolence was inclusionary, even in the church. You want to talk about the black church? Who do you think is playing the piano? The queer community is strong in our religious community. I was raised in a multi-faith family. And so what we are going to do, what we will not do is throw children under the bus who are receiving care from their physicians. We will not have non-scientists promulgate what people need to stay healthy. Listen, my husband died of leukemia. I buried him 2.5 weeks after he died on Father's Day. I am raising a child with no father. And I say all of that to say I've seen hell and back, and I know what these families are going through. You want to talk about young women's safety? Let's talk about it, because I actually know something about it, right? The last thing I'm worried about as a mother with a child who has no father is her going into a restroom to relieve herself. What I'm worried about is her health care. I'm worried about her grandmother who has amputations, okay? I am worried about her Social Security. So if you want to prioritize the division, go forward, but your Congresswoman is not.
All right, now we have 1 minute. Let's hear it.
But we're going to be, listen, I serve you. This is not the only town hall meeting we're going to have. We are going to respond to all of these questions. So why don't we answer a couple more questions?
Yeah.
And then I know we got to get out of here because the folks who run this building got to get home to their families.
All right, let's do, yeah.
Thank you. I'll try to be quick. Thank you very much for being here. The president's disregard for legal norms threatens judicial independence and bullying far-right extremists amid escalating threats. Judges have warned Congress that stagnant security funding jeopardizes their safety, yet lawmakers have not meaningfully responded. While the judiciary has formed a security task force, congressional action remains critical. Congress's failure to address the security deficit leaves judges vulnerable to threats like those against Judge Silos, whose son was murdered in a targeted attack. Proactive measures are essential to uphold judicial independence. Will you commit to a few parts, sorry. Advocating for increased judiciary funding to meet the budget shortfall, emphasizing urgent security needs as threats have doubled since 2021. Pressuring Clay Higgins, chair of the Federal Law Enforcement Subcommittee, to schedule hearings on judicial security, highlighting threats like harassment of judges' families and inadequate marshal service resources.
Yep.
Introduce bills to expand protections for judges' families and criminalize doxing of judicial officials, addressing gaps exposed by recent intimidation tactics.
Yep.
And lastly, publicly challenge funding delays and amplify judges' concerns, ensuring accountability for agencies responsible for judicial safety.
Yes, 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 and yes. I want to make sure that that list gets to one of our staff because we want to follow up with you. And make sure we get your information. The threats on the lives of judges and unelected officials, including myself, it's every day. It has no place in the public discourse. It has no place in our government. Absolutely.
Hi, Congresswoman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Jennifer Rose. I'm with Indivisible East Bay, and I want to thank you for everything that you're doing. I hope you got our kudo board to all of our members thank you as well.
Thank you.
We are obviously a pro-democracy movement, and we're out there fighting in the streets and on the phones every day. But I want to talk a little bit about my own story. I lost my job because of Elon Musk.
Where were you working, ma'am?
I was working for an NGO that was funded by USAID. My sister works for USAID. She's going to lose her job. My sister-in-law is losing her job because she was funded by NIH. So I know when we talk about the economy, we talk about tariffs a lot, and they're devastating. It's chaotic. It's causing a lot of uncertainty. Businesses aren't investing, et cetera, et cetera. But are people in Congress also talking about the money that is being pulled out of the economy by the federal government?
Yes.
And the hundreds of thousands of people who are losing their jobs? And as those things happen, the economy is just going to contract and contract and contract, and it's not just a recession we're talking about. So I just want to know what folks are talking about, and are any of our Republican colleagues seeing that coming down the pike as well?
First of all, thank you so much for your service. The NGO sector, again, they do what government cannot do. USAID spent millions of dollars really creating a healthier globe, which has impact on the United States. We know that. So what I know, the Small Business Administration alone, on Valentine's Day, laid off thousands of workers. The Veterans Administration here in the Bay Area, thousands of workers. The Department of Education, which had a huge office downtown San Francisco, as you know, shuttered, right? The Social Security Administration, VA, DOE, USAID, consumer protections, the government is being gutted. I, again, am excited to see the challenges in front of the court. We actually have not been as virtuous, as victorious in this space, even in the courts. We get a hold, and then the courts have said, okay, well, then you actually can fire these folks. We're gonna have to do a lot of undoing as soon as we win back the House and we win back the presidency. It doesn't matter for folks like you and another sister that I just talked to who got fired from the IRS, who had 2 kids with just a couple of days notice. The president is creating a weaker economy, a sicker United States of America. We will continue to challenge. Again, these are employee actions that should be challenged. He's broken up the unions, the folks who represent folks who work for government, like your family members. I am concerned. It's shocking, and it will have real. It already is having real, tangible effects on the ground, right? We know that Head Start. I was just in a Fruitvale yesterday in Oakland. The Head Start there, they're taking care of over 900 families, 900 families' children in all of Alameda, and they're not able to pull down their resources so they can keep their teachers. These daycare workers can't miss one more payroll. So I just want to thank you, and happy to talk to you too offline. If we can continue to organize federal workers, again, we're going to win. If you're talking about again, the Small Business Administration, on Main Street in the South, they need those folks there. Social Security, the veterans need those folks there. Again, we have a government that doesn't not only follow rules, it doesn't care about poor people, and it will become more and more evident. There was a question around money in politics. I cannot wait until we abolish Citizens United. Okay, we just have to do that. Supported by Citizens United. Let's end on this. I will never purport to be a perfect candidate, a perfect congressperson. I hate that you have to raise so much money to win and maintain these seats. When I was running, my dues for the DCCC were $300,000. $300,000, right? How do you get $300,000? You spend 20% of your time on the phone every week, right? Begging for dollars. And those are just dues. That's not staff to run a campaign and commercials and TV. I think it's gross. And I think it's sick. And because we haven't gotten money out of politics, we keep purporting a system of the consultant class, right? That doesn't do the work that we really, really need to do. I'm not going to do 30 years in Congress. I'm not doing that. I want to build a bench. I'm starting to do it right now. But I want to be there to have, an efficacious tenure where we actually change some of these conditions here at home and then hopefully fight and win back our democracy. But until then, the reality of being in the political space is why other single mothers can't be there. I am the only. I should not be the only, right? I should not be the only, and I will not be the only when I get through. That said, keep your foot on my neck. Again, Mayor, Assemblywoman, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being here. I'll go back to our wonderful new district director, Eden Chin, who is wonderful, fifth generation East Bay or something like that. Been here for a long time. And so we wanted to get also, you guys have pushed us to open up an office. Again, we started from scratch, right, in January, working with the federal government. It's taken some time. We're almost fully staffed. Do you want to talk about open houses and all?
Well, yes, although, okay, one very last, and then we really will wrap it, but we have one very fervent comment we want to hear from.
Well, let's hear that fervent comment.
Yes, thank you, Congresswoman, and what you've done in the 3 months that you've been active is amazing. I just cannot say enough. Thank you. And to those meetings, you posted a video, I think it was last week, of 2 young men rapping in San Jose, and I just want to say thank you again for appealing to everyone, just in politics. Many of my friends are apolitical or apathetic, and I understand the Republicans have the billionaires, they have the money, but Democrats, we have the numbers. I'm Peace and Freedom Party, so there's a disclaimer there.
Yeah.
So I was like 19, but I, of course, in line with Democratic values. And I just want to say, please continue doing that, and it's so needed. And I really, really do just thank you for being here and having us.
Okay, good. I'm so sorry we're going to swear in because we have the turf dancers, the same dancers who dance in the Super Bowl. Culture is who we are, it's what we eat, it's the languages we speak, it's how we pray, it's who we have to celebrate that thing. And we need to elect more folks who are committed to culture as much as they're committed to being self-important in these politics. That if we don't have our songs, if we don't have our language, if we don't have who we are as people, who are we representing? So absolutely, our young people, literally, Ella Baker said, and this is where I will stop talking. She said, young people have the courage where we fail. Ella Baker was one of the mothers of the civil rights movement. Young people have the courage where we fail. So I will always integrate young people into everything that we're doing in our culture and who we are collectively as a people. Let's keep working, y'all.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Congresswoman. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, IBEW. Please keep it coming. Please support the forum. Follow us. We want to stay in touch. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.